Okay, so for a bit of context, I went into this game completely blind. Prior to playing it, I'd seen no marketing, I had no idea about the publisher, and I knew nothing of the ARGs leading up to release. I just heard about it through word of mouth and thought, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Animal Well has a pretty simple setup. You see 4 flames, each getting snuffed out, and then you play a little tutorial area and get given a map with the 4 flames marked on it. Go find the flames. The world is very open. You begin in a central area and are free to go wherever you want. There's no real correct order to complete the game, as the only thing that can stop you is requiring a tool you may have to find elsewhere. I don't know if I'd call it a Metroidvania because it has no combat or anything, but that's probably the easiest way to describe the map design and progression. Animal Well is a puzzle platformer, with a lot more emphasis on the puzzles than the platforming. Your only movement option is a jump, and falling into water only sets you back to where you were last standing. You can miss as many jumps as you want, you won't take damage unless you touch a hazard. The satisfaction instead comes from combining your simple moveset with your environment and your tools to solve puzzles. A lot of rooms boil down to hitting some switches in the correct order rather than trying to make a precise jump. Except for this one to get a collectible, I have no idea why this one was so hard. Am I just missing something? The first thing I noticed with Animal Well before even opening it was the file size. This game is a total of 33 megabytes. Yes, megabytes. This game is smaller than the video clip you're currently watching. Don't get it twisted though, this does not mean that the game lacks content or isn't visually appealing. The sprites may be small, but they look good and the backgrounds are especially nice. There's also a custom lighting and smoke effect engine which I think looks amazing. Reminds me of the Powder Toy if you ever played that on the school computers. I also like the CRT scan lines, but if those aren't your thing, you can turn them off in the settings. The best aspect of the presentation is hands down the sound design. Almost all sound is diegetic, with the exception of the sparsely used soundtrack. Music is only used in save rooms and a few later segments that I won't discuss as they're pretty major spoilers. It uses its soundtrack to great effect, choosing to deliberately heighten certain events rather than for general ambience. Each area you traverse has a clearly distinct soundscape: distant animal cries, trickling water down cavern walls, the gentle rustling of plants in the wind. It made Animal Well surprisingly immersive, and honestly, a little creepy. This isn't a horror game, but it can definitely be a bit unsettling at times. You have fun with that. I want to talk about the animals for a bit, since it's half the title. The animals in this game serve more as an interactive hazard than a traditional enemy. The player is disempowered, so pretty much everything can be seen as a threat. There's a very diverse ecosystem in the well, and each animal can pose unique challenges to the player. Porcupines aren't aggressive, but they hurt to touch. Hummingbirds will pop your bubbles, and dogs will just chase you. Despite the variety, animals always feel natural. They all reside in parts of the map that make sense. I wouldn't call it realistic, but nothing is ever so out of place that I questioned it. It's not like I'm walking around a flooded cabin and then a Bengal tiger shows up. The kangaroo is intentionally made to be scary with the music and creepy sounds it makes, which is a pretty unique take on it. They're usually depicted as friendly in media, and yeah, they are pretty chill for the most part. But like, I wouldn't want to piss one off. Have you seen a kangaroo? They are kinda scary. You know, I just thought it was an interesting angle to take, and this definitely isn't just an excuse for me to talk about my country. The game will give you firecrackers that you can throw to scare off animals, but they're limited in supply and you can only hold a few at a time. The visuals on them are usually more intense, but there's a setting to lessen the flashing, and I've turned it on for the video, you know, just in case. They can also be used to illuminate dark areas briefly, but if you die, you'll lose your held stock of them. Dying is actually kind of weird in this game. It doesn't load your last save, it just teleports you there and takes away your firecrackers. So if I, say, find an item and then die before my next save, I will still have the item I collected, but if I return to the main menu, I'll lose my save progress and return to the save, keeping my firecrackers but losing the item. Because of this, if I ever died but hadn't found any collectibles since my last save, I would just quit out and reload my save because there was no reason not to. I'm not really sure why the game even takes away the firecrackers on death. It doesn't really feel like a relevant punishment. All it does is make me either reload the game or backtrack to find more again. Animal Well is structured in an interesting way. I remember finishing the game in about 5 hours, and I was sitting there watching the credits thinking, that's it? I mean, it was alright, but this is what everyone was hyping up? I guess I still have a bunch of eggs to find, and my inventory has a missing slot, so there's clearly more to do. Well, as it turns out, seeing the credits isn't even the halfway point. Animal Well is designed in 3 layers, and this video will only show light spoilers for the first layer, which ends when you see the credits. This was designed to be a regular puzzle platformer that could be completed going in completely blind. The second layer is where the game really shines. Puzzles here are more complex, and I actually found myself busting out the pen and paper for some of them. I finished layer 2 at the 13-hour mark, but I did have to resort to a guide because I was missing the last few collectibles and I didn't really feel like aimlessly wandering around the whole map for them. I don't want to outright spoil the solution to any puzzles, but there is something extremely helpful I want to give a hint on. This fish is trying to tell you something, and I suggest you listen to it. Layer 2 ends when you get the exit achievement, and this is a pretty satisfying ending, but of course this isn't the end. Layer 3 is actually impossible without a guide. Some secrets had to be solved by a community effort and cannot be done alone. Puzzles here are very obtuse and meta. I'm talking like unfull screen the game and shake the window around kind of complicated. I could only solve a few of these by myself, and they were just ones I stumbled onto randomly. This layer is truly just for the secret hunters. I feel like this kind of rabbit hole design could have led to some interesting narrative choices where the further you dig you uncover more about the world, but unfortunately Animal Well doesn't really have a story to tell. It has a lot of strong imagery that makes me wonder things like where did the flames come from, what's up with the disc shrines, and what's the deal with the ending, but it doesn't answer any of them. There's some murals that can be uncovered with a late game item, and while they do hint at things, they don't really give me enough to properly speculate on. Don't get me wrong though, not every game needs a story, and I'm totally okay with Animal Well just being a fun puzzle game and nothing more, but I do think it could have benefited from one and become a lot more memorable with it. As it stands, I don't really know if this game has a lot of cultural staying power, if you know what I mean. It's been out for about 2 weeks, probably closer to a month by the time this goes up, and I feel like we've already found everything. It doesn't really have a world or narrative I'll remember it 4 years down the line, and while the gameplay is good, it's not setting any new genre standards or anything. I mean, Fez came out 12 years ago, oh my god, the passage of time scares me. I honestly hope I'm wrong though. The atmosphere alone is strong enough that I'll probably remember it for that, and maybe 5 years down the line we'll still be talking about it. Or maybe we'll start seeing games inspired by it. Either way, only time will tell. Basically, Animal Well is a game that only does one thing, but it does it very well. It's not some new masterpiece, but it is a pretty good game, especially if you do the post-game content. If you're only interested in seeing the credits, I don't think Layer 1 gets you your money's worth, but if you're a completionist or secret hunter who likes digging deeper into the games they play, then you'll probably love Animal Well and get a lot out of it. It's a shame so much discussion online is around the publisher, because the game itself is really good, and I really hope we remember Animal Well for that, and not just the people who published it. And that's where the video was going to end, but there's one extra thing that I really want to talk about. The review's over, and if you haven't played the game yet, you should get out now because I'm about to get into some major spoilers. Okay, so before anything else, I hate getting the K medal. It's kind of tedious, but mainly just uninteresting and by far the worst puzzle in the game. I just wanted to criticize that because I couldn't in the main review. Alright, with that out of the way, I want to talk about this room. You can see a little island through this glass, but you can't reach it through normal gameplay. It's just sitting there, so close yet so far out of reach, taunting us, beckoning us to enter even though we can't. So instead we're gonna cheat. I had a big glitch explanation written out, but then I remembered this isn't a tutorial. Basically I got the wheel early, name is messed up because of a layer 4 puzzle, that's right I lied, there's actually 4 layers. I've desynced myself from the wheel and warped to the fast travel room, gone through the fish. Once you enter up here, the wheel's room gets unloaded and it starts free-falling. If you stand here, wait exactly 10 seconds from when you entered, then switch to the wheel and pause, it will teleport you to its location. This is lined up exactly to be inside the island, and there's a chest hidden within. Our reward? The Cheater's Ring. This lets you click in the right stick to turn on no clip and go anywhere you want. Firstly, cool as hell Easter egg. Hiding something out of bounds like this is really interesting, since it's something you straight up can't get without cheating, and your reward for cheating being the ability to cheat better is just really funny. I love going out of bounds in games, so it's no surprise that I'm a big fan of this. Secondly, there's actually a lot of stuff out of bounds. Secret bunnies that will lock you out of endings, some buttons that can corrupt your game, and a lot of animals that strangely have dialogue. But why do I bring all this up? Well, it got me thinking. This game has gotten patches, and these glitches weren't removed. Exactly 10 seconds is also a very specific time to have something fall perfectly where you need it to be, and there's so much content hidden out of bounds that barely anybody will actually find. Then it hit me. What if Billy Basso knew about these glitches? What if they were put in on purpose? Have we just been playing into his hand this whole time? Are we just pawns in this game he created? Has this all gone exactly as he planned? Probably not, but it's cool to think about.